Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. So this one's going to be slightly different. It's going to be probably a lot longer than a normal video, but I don't really want to separate this out into different parts just yet. I'll do some separate videos later on, but I want to kind of go through a lot of different things at the same time to show you how they all interlink with each other. So the purpose of this video is we're going to look at optimization from memory size to project size to pretty much everything in between, and things to consider when you're building a mobile VR project, and what you can kind of take a look at to reduce memory size, CPU and GPU load as well. So what I've done is I've recently been working through my GDXR Ultimate VR template, which is available on the Epic Games Marketplace. If you don't know what it is a starting template that you can use to build your own VR games, built entirely with blueprints. But the problem is there's a few things in here which could do with some optimization and an optimization path. For example, this tap button switch here, when it's loaded into the game, is 300 megabytes because it is loading in two characters and itself. So if we right click on this actor, we can right click, say size map here, and you can see here that it is 268.1 megabytes in size. And the reason for that is it is loading VR character Quinn, which is 225 megabytes in size, and also VR character Manny, which is 40 megabytes in size. The reason Quinn is a lot bigger than Manny is because Quinn is a child actor of Manny. So she has, that specific blueprint has all the memory budget from this character as well on top of it. And then there's a whole other bunch of stuff. So what I want to do is I want to show you a couple of ways you can go through your actors and blueprints, change them around a little bit to reduce this size so they're not that big and they don't take up as much space when you're running your stuff. Because you can see here we've got disk size and then memory size, and that is quite excessive for a button that just changes the player. What we'll also do is we'll take a look at how we can go to the reference viewer and we can reduce some of these references down. I'm going to use a project that I've already modified for the store, which is going to go up. So here is a version that will be going up, which is being heavily modified and optimized. So let's say if I go over to this blueprint now, browse type of class, what I can do is I can right click and go to size map, and we can see here that it goes from 200 odd megabytes down to 2.3. So we're not talking about a little improvement, we're talking about a big difference when it comes to setting this all up. And we're going to look at hard and soft references as well. And then I also want to show you some blueprint interface stuff, which I didn't realize actually affected hard references until I started doing this optimization pass. So I think it's really good and beneficial to teach you guys. So I'm going to open up the optimized version that I have on my other monitor, so we can then take a look at how we can change this one. So if I right click and I browse to this asset and open it up, what you'll see is I have this section down here where we simply spawn the actor of class, and we're spawning a character Manny and a character Quinn. I just use a integer, it is an int, isn't it? Yeah, integer, to switch between those depending what we want, what character we want to take control of. However, the problem is we're referencing a direct class here, so when we press start, it's loaded into memory basically what we're looking for. In this case, character 1, which is Manny, which we take control of as the main character, and then Quinn. So what we want to do is we want to actually reduce this and load these characters in only when we hit this button. So to do that, what I can do is I can move this over to the right, and then I'm going to come down here to the select. Just because it's easier, I'm literally going to right click on the option 0 and then promote to a variable. And then I'm going to say this is character Quinn, I believe. Character Quinn. And then for the actor reference, we're actually going to change this to a soft class reference. So I'm going to change this in. It might break the actual select node, but we can change that. And then what we can do is we can actually create the same thing for our option 2. Let's place this like so. Rename character Manny. And we're also going to change this class to a soft class. And then we'll swap out the select as well. So if we drag off and we do select, we're able to get this in and we'll have the correct options. And because we promote this to a variable as well, if we do compile, you can see that we actually have our references already set for us, which is super helpful. So we don't actually have to change a lot of code. We plug this in. And then what we need to do is, because this is a soft reference, it's not loaded into memory. So Quinn doesn't exist in our game because we don't have a reference to it. So we need to load it in. So what we're going to do is we're going to drag off this and do load async load class asset. And we're going to plug this into here. And then on complete, once the asset has been loaded in and has completed, we're going to spawn the actor of class. You would think about doing it from here to the class, but because this is an object class reference and this is an object class, an actor class reference, doesn't seem to line up. But just dragging off the return value and then going into the spawn works really well. So we hit compile and then we jump back out. What I can do is I can right click on this size map again and then nothing changed. Did I compile it? File, save all, and then size map. We're gonna do it. There we go. So I just had to save all and then it will update for us. And we can see here that BP tap button switch is now dropped to simply 20 megabytes. So that's already really low. Well, not really low, but it's lower than what we had. And we can see, if I make sure we're still recording, that our hand snap or our tap button switch still has a blueprint interface underscore user settings, which is 20 megabytes for a blueprint interface. That's not right at all. So what's going on is in our blueprint interface, the one that I have here, we can actually change this from getting game instance to just get player controller. We'll do the exact same thing. So we can remove that bit. However, the update destroy player isn't the issue, it's the interface itself. So if I hit compile and then we have another look, we'll see that the size map doesn't change, but it's still telling us the BPI underscore user settings has some kind of references. So this took a little bit to figure out, but if I double click my blueprint interface and then we have a look through these events that I've got, or these functions, keep an eye on the bottom here where we have our inputs, because this is the important part. So I'm going to go through each one, and we've got booleans, floats, hands, enums, fine. Even the grab component is actually fine. But what we do have is, if I go down, I have a reference to hand snap location. So I have a component in my project which I use to reference where the player is grabbing, and we send that information through. However, this is causing a hard reference through the interface to the actor itself, which is adding that 20 megabytes of size onto it. So if I go into my other project, which I've already optimized, and we go to interfaces, and then we find this file user settings, you can see that in here, what I've done is I've gone through, we'll make sure we're on the same update hand animation, update hand animation. I've gone through and I've changed this to a scene component. So it's more of a general level. So if I do scene component, we're going to change this to scene component. We'll actually find that not a lot of things should break, some will. But I can save this, do save all, and then hopefully if I right click this, we should see the size map be considerably reduced. So what happened was, I'm using this blueprint interface inside of here, so the interface is loaded in. But within that interface is a function using a variable which is hard referenced to a specific object, which is just blowing out the memory size. So we're loading too much information in here, and we don't have to do that now. So you can see how we've gone from 200 odd megabytes to literally 2.3 megabytes. Message in the game instance, we need information from that, so that's absolutely fine. Display button mesh is really small, which is also fine. So that I would consider as done. The problem is we've changed this update hand animation to a scene component, so it's possible that when we press play, something will break. However, if I go to demo content, VR hands, mannequin, animations, we can go to the animation blueprint because I know that this is where it's used, and we can see here that it's now broke everything. So hand snap location, and this is some of my code to set this up, but we can't actually do any of this because the information coming out is incorrect. So what we can do is we can rejig this a little bit to get the desired information we want. So we can see that we've got hand snap location, but because the input now is a scene component, we can't get this information specifically from that actor. So we want to do a little bit of rejig. So I'm about to use a cast node to cast to the hand snap location. I'm doing this because the project will use hand snap locations throughout all of the blueprints, so casting to it isn't really an issue in this case. But we're also doing it as just a check to see that this scene component is the hand snap location. Then we can do stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag off hand snap location and cast to see hand snap location. Plug this into is valid. And then we can very easily plug these into our cast, like so. So now we can compile. It all works. This one doesn't because it is still being referenced to the hand snap location scene component. So we're just going to bring this in and plug it into our cast as well. So hit compile and save. And now we've actually reduced the size of that down to be more contained within the actual animation blueprint itself. While I'm in here, one thing I can do is actually disconnect this static anim to use and change it to climbing ladder. So it just changes my hand animation to closed for this instance. And then I can actually go in to this event, the update hand animation. So update, it was hide animation, wasn't it? Update hand animations, and I can actually remove this enum as well, because I don't particularly use it for this. And it turns out I'm not really using it anywhere else either. However, there is one place I believe that I am using it, and that is in my character controller. So this isn't a tutorial of follow along and fix the template. I'm going to release the full update because, as I can show you here, I have done a considerable amount that will just take too long to do on the video. So keep that in mind. Cool. But now that we've changed the references, we should be able to do a save all, browse back to this blueprint, and then if we right click, size map, you can see that we've gone even further and we've removed that reference to the hand snap location because the blueprint interface is no longer referencing it as a hard location. So every time I used an interface, it was wired through the interface as a hand snap component, and then it was sent everywhere else. I believe it's going to dramatically break a lot of things. I did this all originally yesterday, so I've got to try and remember where I broke it or whether it did break at all. I do know the character controller, because I removed the enum, has an error in its climbing. So here we've got input and hand animation to use without snap location. And then in this case, we've got this section here. All I can do is right click and I can just say refresh. So refresh nodes, compile, and we've kind of fixed that now. So what you can do is in your own project, you can go through and right click on each blueprint and you can see how it's being used. So in this case, our widget blueprint hand menu is being used by our character Manny and takes up 19 megabytes. And our VR character controller, which contains all of our code, takes 20, which makes sense, that would be in there. But the hand menu itself doesn't really need to be. We could move that and load it because it's only visible when we press a certain button. So what we could do is we can open up character Manny and we could find the section that has our toggle hand menu. If you're using a default VR template, that's actually the exact same code. I haven't really changed anything. So we have this section here, menu toggle left, toggle menu, turn it on. So what you could do is you can go in here and we can actually load this in only when we need it. The problem with this update is that we're going to do with the soft reference is we won't be able to pass this boolean directly into the spawn actor hand menu reference so for what spawns in. So we will have to modify the hand menu slightly, but we can do that without it causing any issues and reduce the size of the player even more. Because as I said, if the player's not using the hand menu, it does not need to be loaded in. The game doesn't care about it, neither should we. So in our event graph, what we need to do is we need to create a reference to our hand menu, and this is going to be a soft reference again. So we're going to call this hand menu class, and then I'm going to change the actor class, and I'm going to do this as a soft reference. I'm going to double check that I am using a actor class. I am. So actor, we're going to select actor and then soft class reference. So we're going to say basically the soft reference is going to have a link to our file where this actor is stored, and then when we press the button we want to load this in. So load async load class asset, and once it's loaded in we can say toggle the menu and spawn it in. So we do toggle, and what we're going to do is we're going to do the same thing for the other hand. So we're going to make some room, copy the exact same code over, completed, and then plug this in like so. And now we can actually tell our toggle menu what class we want to listen to. So we can do that by just getting our class, dragging it onto our function, and then we're going to deselect our active hand menu because it no longer knows what class we're loading in. Now we're going to do compile. So if we go back to our event graph, I can now plug this soft reference into our class. So once it's loaded, so once our asset is loaded, it says we've loaded our asset, completed. We're going to toggle the menu, and then we're going to use this soft reference converter, which resolves the soft reference and gets the class or object it's pointing to. So we can feed that through to our toggle menu. We're going to do the same thing for this one, since it's all we have to do inside of our actual project. And now in the toggle menu, we can actually go through and set this up. So if you've been working with blueprints for a while, you'll see that since we've changed this, our reference is disconnected from our menu reference. The reason for this is we're feeding in just an actor class, whereas our reference variable, so our set, currently has the variable type WBP hand menu. So that's more direct. So what we can do is we can change this to actor, say object reference actor, it's still going to be menu reference. It will change for us. And then we can plug this back in and say, okay, we've got our set menu reference. And then we've also broke our close menu. So this is where targeting different things and using interfaces is going to be really helpful, because we can't use this new reference to say close the menu, because we don't know what actor we're talking to directly. So we can't get a reference to the events inside of that actor. So close menu will need to be recoded inside of the hand menu. So to do that, we're going to go over to our hand menu, and then I'm going to find where I have my close code. So close menu here. We need to replace this with an interface. So I actually have one already, so we can create a interface. But if you don't, what you can do is you can right click, you can go to blueprint and then blueprint interfaces, and you can create your own interface class. I've got videos on them in the description if you want to check it out. But in this case, I actually have an interface which I'm going to use called BPI user settings, I think is what I'm using in my redo project, UMG updates. So hand menu, and then we make sure that we have the interface set up. So interface, BPI UMG updates. Do I have this one? There we go, BPI UMG updates. And with that added, we can see that the interface is on the left here. We have some. What I'm going to do is I'm going to open up this event just by double clicking it. That is the wrong one. I need to go into the interface itself. So UMG updates. And we're just going to add a new function called close hand menu. And then what I'm going to do at the same time while we're in here is create another one called UMG hand menu left or right, because we need to tell the hand menu itself whether we're right or left-handed. So we kind of got to go through the chain, like the list of things to do. So now that we've done that, we can open up our hand menu, find our event graph, and since we've added the interface, we can see that we've got it here on the left. I can right click and do event close hand menu, replace this close menu here, and then for the begin play, I'm going to actually have our character tell it when to start, which is why I created the hand menu left or right. So I'm going to do right click event hand menu left or right, and what I want to do is I want to plug in or set this B activate menu hand right. So I'm going to set it and then plug that in like so, and you can see that we need a boolean value to pass through. So to get that, I'm just going to go back to our interface, do a boolean, say left or right hand, and then now when we go back, you can see that we've added that in there, and we can simply plug it in. So when this blueprint starts, we're going to tell it whether it's left or right handed, and then we can also tell it when to close, and we're going to do that from our character, and we'll do it in here as well. So menu reference, because this menu has been changed to an actor now, we can actually delete the close menu, and we can search for close menu. So UMG close menu, and then we can also come down here. So we say after creating our menu, spawning it in, we want to get the UMG left or right. UMG hand left or right, and then we can plug this in like so, and then plug that boolean straight into activate hand left or right. I don't have widget interaction to disable, so we're going to just remove that. And then that is it for setting up our new menu with reduced references and links. So if I go back to blueprints and then character Manny and reduce size, I think it was the size. Let me save all. I can't remember what size it was before I started doing this. But we can see that it's dropped down and we no longer reference the hand menu. We got the VR character controller and we got our gaze component, which we could also do with removing and loading it in through memory. I won't go that far, but you can kind of use this tool to go through and then see how big your actors are. I'm not too sure which ones are good examples other than the stuff that I've already done. But the goal here was to show you that you can use the soft references to load different things in only when you need it, as we do here with the character controller, and also how blueprint interfaces can affect the length and the memory size of different blueprints based on the variable types that you're using within that interface. It's not something I've seen discussed overly a lot, like at all, really. So I wanted to show you how I've been doing this and how you can go through it to fix that up. So the benefit as well is if you go through and you change that reference in the interface, it's going to update everything else that's referencing that actor. One thing I could do is, as an example, is if I find an actor that uses the hand snap location, which is the custom tool that I built into the template, I could right click and then I can go to browse asset and then we say size. We'll see that that hand snap location takes up quite a bit of memory, and so does the hand. But in the new one, by just playing around with that and changing it a little, so if we go over here, it's difficult working with two versions. Browse, we can right click, size map. You can then reduce that down even more. So you can take it quite far. I've done quite the optimization pass on the template, which is hopefully going out live soon. I've got to work out some other stuff. But for example, we're on kilobytes on the other one, and this one's still at 17.2 megabytes. So see hand snap location is the issue. If we find that component and then we go to here and we do size map, we could see that the skeletal mesh for the hand is actually taking up 16.9 megabytes. And a lot of that is texture size as well. So we've got a whole bunch of different textures that we're not really using. And to fix this, what I did was I went into my version and then I simply remade the material. So it wasn't using the default one that come with the hands. And that reduces it down even further as well. So you can see by using this chain, like the size map, you can get a good idea of how you're using your memory within your application and how you can improve it. With the soft references as well, what we did here is we right clicked and then we focused on the size map to bring it down to 2.3. But what you can also do is you can do the reference viewer. So you can right click, go to reference viewer, and you can see here all the tools that this blueprint references, and these ones are now pink. So these are pink because we're now using soft references, whereas previously they were loaded in, so they would be a normal color. So everything in here is what the actor uses to build. Don't think we need to change any of that. I'm just trying to figure out other examples that I want to show. What have we got? I think that might be it. We could take a look, do some little bonus stuff. So materials and shaders, you want to reduce those down as much as possible. So if I go to my folder that contains everything in the GDXR template, I can right click and I can do size map as well. And you can see here that is currently 405 megabytes. And this is on the unmodified version. So I have textures in here for Quinn that is taking up 22 megabytes of space. And we have a lot. So you got to consider how you're using your textures and where they're being used to whether you need that size in case. In our case, the Quinn textures are literally just being used for the hand models on the VR motion controllers. This is how they're set up in the original template. So they're 4K resolution, but you only use a tiny little corner. So when you start your own VR project, the first thing you should really do is change out the hands. Like, seriously, change out the hands. I'd love to redesign some and then replace them in here. But what I did instead was I went in and then I actually reduced those down, remade the actual maps, and then you can see that the new project is 177 megabytes instead of what it is in this one, which is 405. So I've done quite an overhaul on the whole system, but I wanted to show this video to you guys to get an idea of how you can use these tools within inside of Unreal to optimize your project and see how things are linked together and how you can go through and reduce those down. But yeah, I think instead of rambling, I'll just leave it there. And then if anybody's got any questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section down below. Happy to have a chat. This update should be coming out soon. But yeah, alright, until next time, stay safe, and I'll see you then. Bye.